for tomorrow morning. Now, the forensic fundability audit is the whole enchilada. We're going to take all of those first four and we're going to find out how fundable you are. You're going to know, we'll walk out of here this weekend knowing how you score against lender underwriting criteria and what to do about it. Okay? Now, I do want to give a couple of disclaimers. First of all, FICO and lenders, they don't have a single incentive to disclose their intellectual property. Everything I'm sharing is 28 years of experience. I mean, we are compressing decades into 2 days. 2 days. I've been connecting dots for almost 3 decades, guys, and worked with tens of thousands of profiles. So I know what I'm talking about. Now, proof of this success is in the experience. I'm going to be sharing with you different stories. The story, every single name is true. Affidavits for every one of them. Some of them are unbelievable, and we just got news 2 days ago about one that blew our minds, and $9,250,000 in fundings as a direct result of what we have done together in their fundability. Just gave us a whole new level. Before that, it was my highest fundings were $3.6 million, and these guys came in. More on that later. Oh man, more on that later. So but I need you to understand that what happens between you and I is based on what you do with what I tell you this weekend. All right? Now, there is no other place you are going to learn these principles. Not one. Because I have that unique opportunity and burden of knowing of being uniquely connected with FICO, more on that later, and with lenders and their underwriting teams. Marrying those two together is exactly how we have discovered one of the greatest discoveries of all time, and that is how to match underwriting guidelines. And I'm going to cover it all. All right? Now, the other thing is, for those who don't know me, we're going to get very real a lot. I'm going to get real with you, and I'm going to ask you to stay real with me. And because only the truth is actionable, guys. So I want us to open our hearts, open our minds, suspend your beliefs about business, about credit, about what it takes for you to be fundable. Just for this weekend, you can pick all your old beliefs up at the end of tomorrow afternoon. I ask you, I want to see how many of you are willing to just suspend your beliefs about business credit, what you know about business credit. Are you willing to, just for 2 days, just suspend those beliefs? Thank you guys. Thank you guys for sharing. I don't want to call you out because I don't want to make, but I want you to know that there's a new game, and nobody bothered to tell you until this weekend. All right. So let's take a look at that fundability path. All right. First of all, how many of you have listened to my podcast, the Get Fundable podcast? Any podcasters out there? Show me your hands. I want to know all the, thank you, Tim. All right. Yes. Heather, Quentin. Awesome. Thanks, guys. GetFundablePodcast.com or on Apple or Stitcher or whatever your podcast group, Get Fundable Podcast. Some of you have come from there. Some of you have come from the web classes that we've done, real estate investment groups, Magnify Your Wealth. There's a ton of presentations that I do personally because I want people to know that you don't have to be stuck in old beliefs and dysfunctional beliefs about your business funding, all right? Others have come from my book. How many people have gotten a copy of my book, The New F Word? Anybody have a copy of my book? There we go. Thank you, Tim and Martine. We got Angela, Doug, Kenneth, Quentin. Bravo. That's about principles. We are going to take those principles and put them into strategies now. So if you've got a copy of the F Word, congratulations. You guys are going to get even more out of this because of because you've got the principles under your belt. Now, you are here at the Get Fundable Bootcamp. We're going to be talking about 30 plus fundability strategies on the way to that. Notice it looks like a trophy, right? With a dollar sign up. I call those trophy business lines of credit or trophy lines because they are when you get a business line of credit, not a business credit card, a business line of credit from a tier 1, tier 2 bank lender, that is the most useful, most powerful, and write a check and do a deal. It is the most versatile credit instrument in existence. And if you do what I tell you, you're going to get the trophy. But you get the trophy when you play the funding game like a pro and you've mastered that game. That's why you'll see it throughout this weekend. That is a trophy, and those are trophy lines that's our ultimate game. Now, there's also business credit cards, business loans. We'll cover all those instruments as well. But man, how many of you would like to write a check and do a deal with a $200, $300, $500 or more $1,000 worth of credit lines? Mary says yes. Martine, Tamisha, Carol, John, Patricia, Mark, absolutely. That's why we call them trophy lines. So those 30 plus strategies are here to help you get fundable. Now, one of the main things that you're going to learn in this bootcamp is how to stop stepping on the funding landmines. Some of you may have a decent credit profile. You may have good financials and good books, and you walk in and you're still denied. I know there's those of you out there who've experienced this. You're like, we had one client, $11 million real estate business, $11 million, profitable as hell. He walks into his bank and he goes, I'd like to get a couple $100,000 in a line of credit. I got gobs and gobs of equity in all of his properties. And they told him no because he's a real estate investor. Now I know I got lots of real estate investors here with me tonight, so you're going to find out, just like he did, what we do to flip that script so that the lender looks at you and goes, I want to partner with you on these business credit lines. And he was successful in acquiring them when he just knew how to turn the right dials and move the mixers just enough to be fundable. That is what we're talking about. So at least, guys, let's stop stepping on the funding landmine. And no, this is kind of a funny example of how many of you have ever felt like this? Anybody ever felt like this? You just, from bank to application to application to application, right? Not paying the bills the right way. You don't have the right funding code for your business. If you could stop blowing up your funding opportunities, now, would that be awesome? If you could just stop doing the wrong things. We'll work on the right things this weekend, but if you could stop doing the wrong things, would that help you? Anybody? Would that help you do better? Doug says yes. John, Martine, Heather, Mark. Awesome, David. All right. So, no bueno. No bueno. Because no one has told you about the new funding game, how business credit has evolved. We've gone around like we did prior to 2008, just thinking everything's normal. And we get a no after no after no after no. So I want to clarify for all of our purposes, when I talk about business credit, listen carefully. I'm talking about unsecured, stated income, business lines of credit and loans. Throw in a few credit cards to make your life easy. Are we all on the same page? When I say business credit, I'm not talking about retail stores. I'm not talking about gas cards. I'm not talking about I'm talking about business lines of credit that are unsecured and stated income. Now, I know that sounds sounds unlikely to some of you, too good to be true. But I'm going to let you prove it to yourself, because you are already experiencing some of the formula. You just don't have all of the variables, all of the information. So let's take a quick look here, guys. The first hour until the first break, I have found, again, I've been doing this for 2 years, and I have found that there is one principle that makes this weekend either successful for you or not successful for you. And that is if you're clear as to why you're here. Now, most of you say, yeah, I want that trophy line of credit. But the more you, so follow me here. Let's go over here, and I would like us to make a list of all the things. Give me your whys, and Sky, read them off for us. You guys in the chat, I want to know what your why is. Why are you doing? Go back over. First of all, let me kind of frame this. You got most of you, all of you, are working your freaking heinies off to build real estate empires, notes, franchises, wherever you're coming from. You're working your asses off. And sometimes we forget why. Some of us are in for the kill. The next deal is like an antelope in the Serengeti, right? And we're the lion. So let's take just a second and revisit why. Because just getting a credit line, if you're not clear on your why, I might be putting a revolver in the hand of a 2-year-old. I don't know how good you are at your business. I just know how good I am at facilitating you getting the tools you need, the credit lines you need. So let's revisit. Let's shout it out in the chat and tell me, guys, why are you doing all of this hard work? Why are you working so hard?
All right, Doug says he wants to build wealth with other people's money.
Build wealth with OPM.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, John says family time, quit job security.
Family time and quit job.
Sandra says, I want more freedom to do what I want when I want. I love working, I just want to benefit.
Yeah, freedom, what and when I want.
Yes, let's see. Yeah, John says freedom. Clarence says, I want to be able to, also excuse, we're adjusting the focus right now. Clarence says, to be able to set up family for generational wealth, pass down assets to children and grandchildren.
Very good. Generational wealth.
Tanya says, build a legacy for our children. That's only manual focus.
Legacy for kids.
Well,
Tanisha says, learn the new rules of engagement when building business credit.
Okay, learn the rules. Yes.
Martine says, for more freedom of my time.
Time. Can I throw in there and money freedom? Time and money freedom. Okay, now let's cut back over here. All right, so here's what I want to ask you guys. This is your end game, right? This is your end game. But what I want to know is, we all want to do something for our children, for our families. We got build wealth, generational legacy wealth, generational wealth. Think of your why as a house. Think of your why as a house. And you're standing there, you got the property, and you got tools. And you're going to build that house. And that house is what your children get to live in. That's what you get to retire in. That is your why. Are you using hand tools or are you using power tools? No joke. Think about it. You're sawing every 2x4. You're hammering every single nail that's going into that house. Or do you have a nail gun? Do you have a power saw? Do you have all of the intrinsic, even the specialized tools? How many of you can reduce the amount of work if you have power tools? Show me. If you have power tools, can you cut the time and energy you spend on building your why? Martine says yes. John says yes. Doug, Mark, Tamisha, Clarence, Mary Jo. Yes. The house doesn't change. The time and energy you put in is reduced significantly by using those power tools. So, we're going to be talking about tools and strategies this weekend. Tools and strategies. Let's talk about the first tool. And this is my favorite. Okay? This is my favorite. So, strategy number 1. You have got to bring your full genius to this boot camp and to your why. You got to bring all of you. And here's the thing, guys. I don't want to give the great reveal yet. You're not. No matter how hard you're working, you're not quite at the power tool level for this reason. What do I mean by full genius? There are 2 parts of you that have to work together. There is your creative self. It's the inventive, imaginative, innovative, experimental, artistic, expressive, inspired, the visionary, right? The resourceful, flexible, trusting, intuitive, nurturing, collaborative, relationship building self. Now, the other part of you, and so think about, ruminate on that. How many of you have done a deal where the numbers they were either even or didn't quite make sense, but you pulled the trigger because you were inspired by it. You knew it was right. It was a gut level instinctual response. Anybody make a decision from that place? John says yes. Doug, Martine, Mary Jo. Okay? So then there's your strategic self. Powerful, decisive, logical, that leader in you, the builder, the hunter. I mean, literally hunting down the next deal. You're courageous, ambitious, strategic, motivated, independent, confident, and centered, grounded. How many of you know that part of you? How many of you do your deals from that part of you? Anybody? How many of you do the math, check the boxes, do the spreadsheets? Tamisha, Doug, I want to see more hands. I want to say Jeff, John, Martine, Sandra. All right. Demon, perfect. You guys, there is an art and a science to your why, which means there's an art and a science to creating fundability, to make you fundable. Excuse me. So our end game here for this weekend is every strategy, we're going to be talking about how to implement it from the creative self and from your strategic self. Because, and what I want you to do is I want you to type into the chat right now. I want you to type into the chat what your percentage is. Creative slash strategic. Just type it in there. Creative slash strategic. I want to see your numbers of 100%. What is it that you do? Because in that experiment, you guys are in a position to. I want to know where you are right now. Okay. Talk to me. There we go. I like it. I like it. So read those off to me, Sky.
All right. Victoria says 50-50. Tamisha says 15-85. Sandra's 20-80. Clarence 60-40. Martine is 75-25. Mark is 30-70. Angela is 50-50. Sarah is 40-60. Mary Jo's 75-25.
I love it, guys. I love it. Who said 100, 100? No, just kidding. Okay, do you see? Many of us are not fully engaging both parts of us. More on this later. But I want you to know that the $1 million funding formula, the ability to get $1 million in these trophy lines and loans, comes from balancing, having both of these skills, because you're going to be building relationships with banks, creative side. You're going to be vetting banks, the strategic side. You're going to be developing a fundable personal profile, which is going to take both parts of you, and we'll go through those. So my goals for this weekend, guys, thank you for sharing, all of you. Thank you so much. So my goal for all of us is that you understand. I already know this. And however we walk down this fundability path together after this weekend, I already know you are the genius behind it. I know that lenders are motivated to sell, and you'll learn this tomorrow. They're motivated to lend to the genius behind the business, not your business. Just wait for me, suspend those beliefs, that you're going to be blown away. They're motivated to lend to the genius behind the business. Now, it is easy to get momentum in this fundability path. It's easy to pick up steam and move quickly on it. So I'm here to help you find your right path to success, and I'm going to show you how to implement this fundability, this $1 million funding formula. All right. Now, at the end of each section, we're going to take questions. When you see this $1 million bill, that means it's time to take questions, so which you're going to put in the Q&A. So anybody have any questions right now about where we're going and how we're doing it? Anybody? All righty, let's continue. Next. So, the coming recession, is it going to be a bark or a bite? We don't know. And that uncertainty creates a vacuum or a hesitancy to make decisions. All right. So my first objective, my first objective in this strategy is to go through how to set up your business so that you are asking your business the right questions. The more intelligent your questions, the better your answers. So you need to ask these questions of your business, and we'll get to those in a sec. So there's this path to success. So I call it a hierarchy of success. So start at the bottom. Every one of us start at survival, paycheck to paycheck, W-2. Every one of us, unless you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth, every one of us started out, getting a job and working for the man or working for the woman or working for somebody else. Somewhere in there, whether you were 16 or 60, somewhere in there, you started having a vision of something bigger, goals, dreams, and ambitions. You wanted more. And like I said, some of it happens early, some happens later. Doesn't matter. For us entrepreneurs, we are all, there's that drive inside of us. We can have 2 and we want 3. We could have 30 and we want 300. Then for that vision or goal, we start looking out there for tools. We're looking for wealth vehicles. How many of you hit that second stage and then all of a sudden you started noticing? You never noticed it before, but there were real estate conferences being announced, or a franchise expo, or a notes conference, or somebody invited. How many of you, it wasn't until you started having goals and dreams of being out of a normal day-to-day W-2 life, did you start seeing all of a sudden they start popping up in your world? I know David and I are on the same page. There's Mark, Mary Jo, Martine, John. We don't even notice. That's the crazy beauty of life, is until we present ourselves to say, I want more, Life will give us more the second we ask for it, right? So we find a wealth vehicle, and every one of you have chosen at least one. Every one of you have chosen at least one. Some of you have chosen 2 or 3. Once you choose that wealth vehicle, then that's where you go to education, you go to your RIAs, you go to your associations, you start associating with people who are in that business, and you start picking up knowledge and tools. Everybody with me? You pick up those knowledge and tools, and then you start, next level is you implement, you practice, you do your first deal, you succeed, you fail, whatever version of it is, but you start implementing and practicing. Now, here, the next section, guys, I'm going to make a bold statement. And here I'm going to say that there is, and you know who you are. I don't know yet because I don't know you personally, but I will. I know you out there know that you are at the level of implementation and practice, and you're not at your why yet. Do you know why you're not at your why? Yes, it's a little redundant. Do you know why? Because the stage in between implementing, because every one of you to one degree or another are implementing your wealth strategy. You're implementing the tools. You're doing something. But you have not developed a reputation and the relationships that will cast you forward into your why. Tell me you guys understand, at least understand what I'm talking about. You're implementing, but you haven't built the reputation and the relationship. John, Heather, Martine, Doug, Kenneth, you guys are getting it. Yes. So the point is that we have to build relationship and a reputation. Now, here's where the magic is, guys, and the reason why I'm going through this, because when I start teaching you strategies about we're not building a credit profile. We're not building a fundable business. We're building your damn reputation and relationships with banks. Tell me you guys understand what I'm talking about. We have to build reputation and relationship. Yes, Heather, Forrest, Kenneth, David, Dave, Mark, Gray, Joan. Yes. We'll never hit our why, especially using other people's money, if we do not have a reputation for being a professional, and then fill in the blank, professional borrower, a professional builder, a professional real estate investor, a professional note buyer, a professional franchisor, a professional entrepreneur. We'll never get there without reputation or relationship. So I wanted to show you this pyramid because this weekend is about what it takes to get that reputation. Now we can get into the details of a borrower profile, borrower behaviors, fundable entity. But those are if you don't get that it's a reputation, that reputation is measurable by lenders, there's no point in you being here. Because we need you to understand that you have power over this. Guys, you have the power, and you've made an amazing choice to be here with me today, and me and my team, so that you can learn all about that. You've done every one of those things beneath it. The W-2, the visions and the goals, the wealth vehicles, knowledge and tools, implementation of practice. You did that all without me. But building a relationship with banks and how to trigger positive approvals, yeah, that's why we are now building this relationship together. Now, the funny thing is it's not just me helping you build relationships and reputation with lenders. The better relationships you have with contractors, with your bird doggers for properties, the people who are farming for you, the better your reputations, where you are a solid investor in town, a solid note buyer, people know you know your game and you're good at it, and you have integrity and a sense of self-respect and self-worth, those relationships, you take that and put it with money, now you have your why. So much so that I want to tell you about one of my friends, Mark. Guy just crashed me up. I've loved this guy. We actually go through, we've been river rafting twice. We met in business and we just became friends. We did the Colorado, I invited him to Utah to do the Colorado River. He invited me to California to do the Stanislaus River, Tuolumne River. It was amazing. So COVID hits earlier this year. You know what he does? He gets on his damn sailboat and sails Panama and everything, sails to the Caribbean and posts up in a beach and has just been sailing through the Caribbean for the last 10 months. That's a why. You with me? That's a why. Some of us are already there. Some of you listening to me just may want the next level. But he had the power and the freedom to make that kind of a choice. So, I ask you, who has more freedom? And I want you to type this up. Who has more freedom? Someone who plays the piano or someone who doesn't play the piano? Type it, give it to me in your chat. Who has more freedom? Piano player or not piano player? Talk to me. I have not. So, okay, we have lots of nots and a couple players. Okay, I'm going to propose to you that the person who has more freedom, people who can't play the piano are not free to also play the piano as part of their skill set. Now, do they have to pay a price to get there? Do they have to establish habits and to make it happen? Absolutely. But they are not. They can sit down at any cocktail party or church function and bust out a tune. They are free to play the piano. The more skills you have, the more money you have, the more free you are. How many of you agree with that statement? How many agree with that statement? The more skills you have, not just the more money, you could be as rich as you could be a billionaire. But if you're scared to jump out of a plane, you don't want to paint, you don't know how to drive a car, you don't know how to cook, you don't have any skills, what good is your billion freaking dollars? How many of you get what I'm talking about? We get to have skills, not just sit on a beach drinking Mai Tai. Now, I'm not saying that I don't want to spend 6 months of my life doing that and everything else. How many of you get what I'm talking about? Clarence, Doug, Quentin, Dave, Kenneth, Mark, John, Heather. Absolutely. So, it is vital. More skill. Thank you, Garrett. More skills equal more freedom. Straight up. So, we, this weekend, are about learning what it means to have a good reputation with bank. And your score, I'm gonna break this myth right now. Your score is almost meaningless. I don't care if you have an 800 or a 600. Your score is relatively meaningless when it comes, and we'll go into great detail about this. All right. So next. COVID-19 hits, right? My buddy is off to the Caribbean in his sailboat. But each one of us need to know, we still have to frame COVID, non-essential business shutdowns, small groups being required. We're having a big spike. State after state are closing things down. Are you vital to your tribe? Do you offer an essential business? And if not, what do we need to do to make what you're doing essential and online? I learned from one of my mentors. His name's Yaya. Love the freaking name. His name's Yaya, right? Brilliant man. And he tells me in this forum that I was in, you got 3 things are going to make you succeed, especially in this pandemic, right? Are you vital? Are you online? And the last one was, can your business succeed without you, or is it dependent on you? Now, there's no right or wrong answer, but the idea is these are part of our survival strategies. So let's go through some of those strategies and decide how or why, because I don't know where you are. There are over 50 people in this together today with me, and I don't know where you are, but I know you're somewhere that we're gonna talk about right now. So let's take a look at how, if you're in when a recession hits, if you're in the relationship building, the reputation building, implementation and practice, you need growth capital, because more money is more fuel to an engine, because you may be used to pushing your, how many of you have driven into a headwind and literally you have to push on the gas to keep going the same speed? Do you understand what I'm talking about? Anybody ever been in a situation where there's been such a headwind that you push on the gas just to keep the same speed? That gas is growth capital. So if there's a headwind called a recession, if there's a headwind about anything that's going on, we got to make sure that we have the ability to put more gas into that engine. And that's called growth capital. Some of us aren't quite there. Let me show you what I mean by that. What does growth capital look like as we go into a recession? Now, guys, this is insane. Please pay attention here. Put down the baby and put down the pets, because I'm gonna give you in 2 minutes the 10,000 foot view of what you're facing right now. Why you're getting no's, why you're getting contractions, lowering limits, notes being called. I'm gonna show you right now exactly why. First of all, in prosperous times, this is what we call a funding target, okay? So it is easier to get approved because unemployment's down, the big indicators, the KPIs, right? The key indicators of your business are all, and of the economy and of the world, are all pointing up. So lenders are confident that you're not likely to lose a job. You're not likely, even if you do lose a job, another one's available. Those key indicators are how they help decide who's fundable, who's not. Now, you do have to hit the target. You can't be 20 yards off of the target. You got to still hit it. But what happens is, our goal, write this down, our goal this weekend is to learn what are the fundability strategies that move our scatter group tighter towards the bullseye. How many of you sighted in a gun? Anybody ever sighted in a gun? Anybody sighted in a gun? No Texans are here with us today. We got Tamisha, George, John, Patricia. People are like, sighted in a gun? What is he talking about? All right. You literally put it on a stand and you pull the trigger, and wherever it goes, you have a sighter or you look at it yourself and you're like, whoa, I am way off point. And you listen carefully. We twist the gears, move the screws, move the sights just a little bit. We're not moving the gun. We're moving our sight. Tell me you guys understand what I'm talking about. We're not changing the gun. We're changing our perspective of that sight. Good. George, John, Doug, Kevin, Tamisha. All right, we're all good. So, our job this weekend is to learn what the strategies that are going to make our scatter group really, really tight. And people say, why do we need them tight? If I'm getting approved up here, why do I need them to be tight? Here's why. And I've been through 3 recessions and it's worked every single time. Because this is what happens to the size of the target during a recession. Everybody follow me? They stop, the target gets that big. There's only 2 to 3 rings after the bullseye. They shut everything else down. And here's the thing. Some of you, I'm not even going to ask you. Some of you have already gotten reductions in your credit lines. You've gotten loans called due. Why? Because you were approved out here. You are approved out here, and what is safe for lenders is what's right there. And so those inner ring approvals, what we call a bullseye borrower, that is what's going to create successful in keeping your current lines, getting credit limit increases, and getting new approvals. Tell me you guys understand what I'm talking about here. Do you understand the principles that we're talking about? John says yes. Heather, Anija, okay, too many. Thank you. I love it, guys. Not too many, just lots of you. Okay, so our goal this weekend is to find out how to be that bullseye bar, how to make our scatter chart. And we're going to learn the little screws so that we know how to change our sights. Because the gun's just going to automatically hit what we're looking at. Do you hear me? The gun's job is to just hit. Funding is going to get approved based on how we move those fundability dials. The gun's just going to shoot. Fair enough? So, thank you guys. Sight alignment and trigger control. Hit the funding target. Brilliant. Brilliant. All right. Now, so much so, I'm going to... This goes through September. I didn't update because I just barely got October and October's numbers. $12 million in our clients and students approvals during COVID. We're having, instead of contraction, when you're that bullseye borrower, you're going to get credit limit increases because I want you guys to type this in there. When do lenders make money? When do lenders make money? Give me some answers, guys. When do lenders make money? Anybody? When they land, 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 when they land. So, and do you realize that the top 10 banks in America are more capitalized now than they've ever been in their history? They're sitting on more cash. Now, it doesn't matter how much cash they have. They don't want to make foolish lending decisions, but they want to lend. They want to lend. So I'll give you a little preview of 2 weeks ago, there was a Fico Symposium. Now, Fico is way more than just these three, the three digits that give us a credit score. Fico is about predictive analytics. They're predicting our behavior, and we'll be talking more about how they predict it and how we can play the game so that they predict our approvals. More on that later. But at this symposium, do you know what the number one theme of the entire symposium? It was a week long, Monday through Friday. Their main theme was how to nurture customer relationships so that they can lend to them. There are like 9 times more depositors than there are borrowers. And they're sitting on a gold mine of their customers who aren't borrowing from them. And many of them are not borrowing because they don't know that they'll get approved. And lenders don't know they get approved, so we got so much fun stuff to talk about. So the point is that if you're a bullseye borrower, you're going to get approved. That's just the way the game is being played. And FICO was teaching lenders in the symposium. I just happen to be the fly on the wall, the only borrower-facing organization at FICO symposiums. But I get to learn what FICO and lenders are talking about so I can bring it to you so that we can shape our strategies to be fundable. All right? So we're totally slaying it on the fund during COVID. In November, see the most we had was $3.2 million. $3.2 million was my highest in September. Guess what November is already? $9,250,000 in approvals that are based on these fundability principles. Dude, I was blown away. My highest before that was 3.6 million. More on that later. But I'm telling you, this, when you sight in your funding, your fundability gun, you will hit the bullseye every single time. So so we've got growth capital, right? Let's go to those of us who are working on wealth tools or learning, or just barely learning. We haven't quite implemented. Well, for you, this may be an opportunity to pivot to a new wealth strategy. There are people who have that have changed. I'm part of a mastermind, and I heard story after story of organizations who literally went, "Oh wow, we need to be online," and they pivoted and have prospered. There's an outfit here in Utah. And it is kind of funny. It's Five Wives Vodka, right? Of course, it's from Utah. So Five Wives Vodka is a popular purveyor of vodka. When the pandemic hit, they circled up and said, "How can we serve our community and make sure that we can because we don't know how this is going to land." And they got an insanely quick approval to use their bottling setup to begin doing sanitizer. And because, like in many of your areas, every store was wiped clean of sanitizer. And so locally sourced sanitizer was coming to all the communities in Utah. And these guys made a fortune and didn't gouge their customers. They just had the opportunity to pivot. So we've got to remember, because I don't know where you are, not yet anyway, we may need a wealth vehicle pivot based on what you're facing, all right? Then finally, it's time to get real, okay? Because I know what it means to be way high on this pyramid and to slide horribly down to not even having a paycheck. So, 1991, I'm fresh with a brand new child. My wife and I moved. I'd sold an interest in a business in Silicon Valley. I had sold my home. It was my first live and flip and cashed out. I was sitting on several $100,000, and we decided, some friends of ours were living in Utah, said, "Come out here. If you can be anywhere you want, come out here." And so we did. We moved out. And then I took the advice of young, dumb, and really, really unaware. I took one of my friends who was also selling his business, had insider information on a company that was going public. So I put every penny of my several $100,000 into buying this stock when it came out, and I bought it. I think it was like $3, and it went to 6, and then crashed to like 12 cents. I lost everything but a couple of $1,000s. Now, I didn't have another job yet. I had just moved out there, and I was living large, didn't have a single problem. Here's where the punch in the gut happened. Is that I'm a generous man. I've always contributed to my church, to offerings, to tithing, and loved being able to take care of folks who were less fortunate than me. Problem is, what happens when you're the one who's the least fortunate? How many of you have had the script flipped on you, where all of a sudden you're the recipient? Like this one Christmas, me and my family were the recipient of Sub for Santa, where somebody from our church knocks on our door and brings a Christmas tree and presents. It was so beautiful and gracious of them to care enough about us. But me, as the breadwinner, I'd always been on the other side of this camp. And it was from my perspective at that time, it wasn't just humbling, it was humiliating. And I want you to know that I swore that I would never be in that position again. And it hurt so much that I swore that my offerings would go up, my care for others, that I would do more that I could possibly do to empower and inspire and make a difference so that people don't have to experience that. I'm not saying it was a bad experience. I'm saying that, do we have to fall from 10,000 feet? Can we fall? Can we have a safety net to catch us? I just wanted, I'm part of my motivation. This boot camp, Get Fundable, everything that I'm doing in this revolution of information is to make sure you have everything you need to make the right decisions at the right time. Now, funny thing was, just like you guys said, the wealth vehicles never show up until you're ready, right? Until you start dreaming those dreams. Well, I was in the middle of my misery when I walked into a store, and I don't know if you remember this back in the day, this is in the early 90s. I walk into a store, and there's Auto Trader, when you walk in, there's a magazine, the Auto Trader's there, and you pick it up and look at cars. They also had a magazine called HUD Homes. $500 down, you can take over this POS, that's piece of shit for those of you who don't know the cryptology of the language. The whole magazine of just ugly homes. And I wouldn't have been open to the forthcoming real estate revolution that was going to be happening in Salt Lake City unless I had been decimated. Because if I'm full, I'm not looking for food. Well, it was insane. And I started picking up properties and ultimately ended up, over the course of that time, ended up getting back on my feet and flipping a couple of houses. By the way, I honor in every part of my soul, I honor those of you who are landlords and who flip houses. My flipping career lasted 14 months, and it was the most miserable 14 months of my life because that's not my jam. I know how to get money. I don't know how to flip a house. I tried 3 of them, and they were profitable, but I was miserable. And so how many of us are working towards our why and we're miserable on our way? More on that shortly. So the bottom line for us, guys, is thank you for allowing me to share that. Some of you are very kind in our chats. Thank you. I just don't want somebody to have to go to those levels of low. I believe polarity is good. I believe for every high, there's an equivalent low. But I want to have tools to know how to prepare myself so that if I'm not surviving, at least I know how to thrive. If I'm not thriving, at least I know how to survive. And if I'm not surviving, I know how to protect. I want answers for every one of those situations. How many of you would like answers of how to prosper in every single one of those types of situations? John says yes. Patricia, Tanya, Tamisha, Zach, Mary. All right, then let's hit it. All right. Whew. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. All right. One of the things that I wanted to share with you is that regardless of which one of those you find yourself in, thriving, surviving, or just trying to protect, right? Maybe even learning how to recover from some mishaps in the past. One of the things that we need to be aware of is that there are people, and by people I mean organizations, who are way ahead of us on how to do just this. Way ahead of us. Their name is Fico, Fair Isaac Company. and they predict, I call it herd mentality. They can't predict what I, Meryl Chandler, am going to do. But they can predict what 1 million people are going to do. They do a great job of it. So a year ago, literally a year ago this month, before COVID, before any recessionary pressures, they had another seminar. And at this FICO World, it was called Next Recession Prepping. How to prep for the next recession, right? So the point that they were making is that they added a new scoring model to what you know as the FICO score. And it was called the FICO Score Stress Indicator. And this indicator said, hey, we want to know the people that we want to know the people who we can continue to lend to in a recession. Would it be helpful for lenders to know who they can just keep lending to? And like we talked about in that bullseye borrowing, I'm telling you guys, I'm telling you, notice what it says here, that the more robust your profile is, what we called reputation a little while ago,